welcome to another episode of T3 Connects, not collects, connects with today's guest or tonight's guest. You know him, you love him, you love that southern drawl, ladies and gentlemen. Chris, the man collects. But first, before we bring him in, got to thank the sponsors of tonight's episode, Toy Depot in Whittier, California. If you're in the Southern California area, especially Whittier, go to Toy Depot, hunt for some stuff, grab a stack of action figures or collectibles in the case, go to the register and say T3, and they'll give you a discount every Thursday and Friday, 10%. It's pretty good. So I'm going to kind of tell you how this is going to go. So also want to thank Mr. Stephen Hayarcher from Nerd Affiliated for yesterday's episode. That was fun talk. We went over our hour and a half actual time, but that's fine. It was fun. It's always good to talk to him. So if you haven't watched the episode, go watch it. All these episodes that you're watching this week will be up on Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasting. They'll be up for you guys to listen to. So got that out of the way, and I think that might be it. I don't think there's anything. Oh, that's right. So how this is going to go, I'm going to bring Chris in here in a minute. We're going to talk to him, and I have some questions for this gentleman. He has been on the podcast before when he had Overgrown 3 Years podcast. We talked about toys. But this podcast is a little different. We're probably going to talk about toys, but we're going to dive into something completely different. So this is connecting with my fellow collectors on a one-on-one basis. Not really talk about toys, but talking about toys. So anyway, give a round of applause. And if you have comments, please comment in here. But if you have questions, leave them towards the end so we can answer them then. So, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, clap your hands together. We have Chris from The Man Collects.
Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Ah, good deal. I got new microphones and everything since the last time we done this. I'm glad it works.
Yeah, it's been a while. We do talk on occasion.
Yeah, every now and again. I text you about as much as I do my wife, so.
That's pretty good. I should have changed the background. I forgot. So, my friend, like I told you before, this would be a little different than we've had in the past. So I don't know if you watched the episode with Hey Archer, Stephen.
I saw some. I got to admit, my time it's 10 o'clock. I was about zoned out last night. I watched a little bit at work. So when it gets to be about 11 o'clock, you're probably going to see me sitting here kind of, I'll try to stay awake. I got some caffeine out here. We'll be all right.
Oh, yeah, caffeine. I got water. Stephen was drinking. I had no idea he was drinking alcohol last night. So pretty funny. But yeah, let's dive right into this. So I'm going to ask you some questions that pertain to toys but in a different way. So I want you to go all the way back in your memory bank to little Chris when you were a child. Do you remember the very first toy that you fell in love with as a child?
Oh, the very first things that I liked, I think we've talked about this, was the Secret Wars figures, the old plastic rubber figures. That's the first things I can really remember having and messing with. That was mine. Now, my older brother had G.I. Joe. I can't remember which one of those came out first, but that's my two earliest toy memories, is having my Secret Wars figures and then trying to get my brother to let me play with his G.I. Joe, because he had about everything. He had the flag. He had all kinds of good stuff. That's my first, I guess, happy memories of stealing his stuff, but mine was my Secret Wars figures. And I've still got some of those. They're just not, in too good a condition.
So Secret Wars, which is probably like one of the, besides Masters of the Universe, is probably one of the two toys I remember from my childhood. So that's pretty cool. Secret Wars is great. Very expensive now. If you get them,
God, I know.
So tell me, like, more about your childhood, like your upbringing, and before you get into like middle school.
I had a pretty happy childhood, I guess. I can't say anything was too bad. Mom spoiled me and my brother. We had about anything we ever wanted, as far as toys, Nintendos, and all that good stuff. But I guess as far as you want to get into my collecting obsession when I was a kid, that started when I was a preteen. We talked about it before too, the old Marvel trading cards. that came out, I think in 90 or 91. The first set of those really got me started and wanting to actually collect things, not just have them, for toys, wanting to take care of them, and try to get a full set of something like that. But childhood for me was normal. I played outside. I was a chubby little kid, like I'm a chubby big kid now, hang around with a friend. And, didn't have all the cell phones. And I'm an old curmudgeon from back in the day. We didn't have that fancy stuff when I was a kid. We didn't have cell phones and all that crap. We run around outside and play, ride bikes, big wheels, all that fun stuff. As far as the man, I guess the kid collects in me.
Okay, so childhood was good. It sounds like you may have been a little spoiled, maybe?
I was the baby. My brother, he kind of had a little bit of favor, but I was the youngest. I was the baby. I took advantage of that younger sibling thing, and this will be the only bad word I say tonight, but I took every opportunity I had to piss my older brother off. And if he was on here, he would definitely vouch for that.
Oh, that's pretty funny. So, as a kid growing up into an adulthood now, so I'm assuming you have a really good relationship with your brothers.
Oh yeah. I only got the one brother. Me and him, we're pretty tight. Greg is 8 years older than me. My mom and dad got divorced when I was 15. And you want to get into like the stuff that's not so rosy about the childhood. Mom and dad didn't have a good marriage the whole time. Okay. Toys was kind of an escape from that crap when they were fighting and all that stuff going on. But my dad left technically before I turned. He was checked out the last few years, all that stuff. But Greg pretty much raised me. So yeah, I'm pretty tight with Greg. He's my brother, but he's been more of a father figure to me, through my life, and helped shape me into the man collects that I am now. So that's if it's a good or a bad thing. That's how I got to where I am now.
I'd say it's probably a good thing.
Depends on who you ask.
So what's one thing that your brother would say about you to other people that are in this community of collecting toys that we don't know?
That you don't know?
Yeah.
Probably the lengths that I would go to get something I'm like, we talked about before, if you and I would ever go toy hunting, I think highly of you. You're one of the best friends I've made through this YouTube experience. But if we're going to a toy aisle and there's something there that I want and I know you're after it, I'm going to shove somebody. Like we talked about before, cutting around, I'll cut somebody over a toy. But just relentless. If I get a goal focused in my mind that I want, I can be pretty relentless in trying to pursue that. But as far as anything he would say about me, he probably talked about me being stubborn because he knows I'm stubborn. That's the way I was raised. And some people know that, some people don't. It just depends on what part of my personality I show them. But I can be a little more bullheaded than others.
See, getting to know you over the last few years, I probably wouldn't have thought that. Because you seem like you're very, I don't know, like I wouldn't say stubborn. I would say like you're very determined on what you're after and what you want to get. So I know that you and I have been talking about because I'm in the hunt for the Toy Biz Marvel superhero stuff. We both wanted the Punisher van, and you've been hunting for that thing at every toy show, and you finally got it. And you got it at a ridiculous price that I was even like, I can't believe you got it for that cheap, because I've never seen anything like that cheap. So I would say you're very determined.
And actually, my wife actually got the Punisher van. She found that on Facebook Marketplace and tried to surprise me with that for Christmas. And really, Toylanta, that was my whole purpose of going to Toylanta, was to get a Punisher van. And then she got me that, and I was thinking, well, crap, what am I going to buy now? But of course, people watch that video and know I found plenty of stuff to buy. But I only actually saw one of those down there. I was kind of surprised. I figured they would have been everywhere. Only one vendor had one that I saw.
Yeah, that fan is kind of hard to come by, but I did watch that video and I was really surprised to see that there. I was like, wow, I've watched a lot of toy hunt videos, and it's kind of rare to ever see that pop up anywhere besides like eBay or Facebook Marketplace. So the fact that you got that thing for Christmas and she got a great deal on it, that's unheard of for that thing.
The box was it was sealed, but now the tape was barely hanging on. People kept saying they couldn't believe I think you even told me you couldn't believe that I opened that. You can blow on the thing and the tape would have came loose, but it's pristine on the inside. That was awesome. And the one I saw in Toylanta was the same way. The box had been opened, but the guy said it was untouched on the inside. But then again, I didn't have to buy it. I could spend money on other things because the wonderful spouse already got it. And she's watching, so I'm going to make sure to throw a bunch of good things that I got to suck up and get some brownie points when I go back in. So.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. Hey,
That's right.
happy wife, happy life, right?
Exactly right.
Mm-hmm. All right. So let's talk about like your teen years, or let's say teen. So like middle school up until you got to high school. So what was that like growing up?
Middle school years, I started to, I mean, I've never been a big outspoken. I'm more of an introvert than an extrovert, just to go around and have a long explanation to that. So as I got older, and so I guess to mature, I don't want to say I withdrew, but I was more quiet and shy than I was outgoing and loud and all that. So I did kind of retreat more into the comics and stuff like that stuff when I started getting into it. But as far as that, I mean, the middle school, leading up to middle school was some of the best years because I had my core group of friends. There was 4 or 5 of us. Our school was right in the middle of our hometown, which our hometown would probably fit inside of this building I'm in right now. It's a very small town in Virginia, but every Friday we would go over in town, goof around, go to look at comics, go rent video games and all that stuff. So the teen years were pretty good. To go back to the stuff with mom and dad, once they finally divorced, my childhood got a lot better because that element of my life, with them arguing and crap was gone. So it started kind of lining out. And I also started to get more focused on the collecting, trading cards, and then really, really getting heavy into comic books through that time in my life as well. I collected comics heavily, probably until I got a driver's license and discovered other pursuits at that time. We won't talk about in this stream because my wife's listening.
I was going to say, would that be girls?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I can't say too much. I'll have to sleep out here tonight.
Okay. So you got heavy into comic books at that age. What is the one comic book that sticks out of all the comic books that you purchased at that age the most?
At that age, the one I was most into would probably be the X-Men #1 from 1991 because I really got into reading Uncanny X-Men and stuff in the issues leading up to when the Mirror Island saga came and they split in 91 when Jim Lee and Chris Claremont and stuff made the X-Men. The cartoon was going at that time, but I was bound and determined to try to find, I had all those variant covers. That was my first really collector's obsession, was getting all those X-Men covers and then getting the big like 5-way fold out deluxe edition. But like I said, X-Men were my jam. Favorite character, though, of all time would have to be the Punisher. But, as far as the first one that I ever really kind of obsessed over, and I was so happy to get to complete the set, was getting all those variant X-Men covers for X-Men 1. Back in those days. I've got some better books since then.
So what was it about that X-Men's, like, #1 that made you want to get everything for that?
Like, I just love the storyline. Like I said, reading all those Uncannies to Bishop's first appearance, the 280s leading up to where I think it was 281 when they split. I can't remember when Uncanny changed and X-Men #1 came about, but just love those stories and couldn't get enough of it. I hadn't really read X-Men to probably around issue 2, around 275. I started reading around then and got heavily into it and just love the story. And it was those comic cards that kind of pointed me towards it. I had those cards memorized as far as what teams were what, the first appearances and all that stuff. And then getting the comic book and actually reading the story where you can visualize what these characters I'm seeing on a trading card actually do. I mean, that just blew my mind when I was a kid. I guess kind of like computer and video games and stuff now for kids. That blew me away and showed me a whole different world.
So you'd say that comic books were your escape from everything.
They were, yep. Comic books and action figure. Comic books more so, though. And whenever I read a book or anything, like anybody does, I mean, you kind of almost put yourself into that story while you're reading. And like I said, I enjoy the comics much more than reading a novel or something like that because they had pictures, and stuff like that in it. And they weren't as long. But I can read comics and, just sit there and put one down after the other and look up and, 3 or 4 hours be gone, not even realize.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would say every kid, like in our generation, comic books were huge. Baseball cards were huge. Sports cards in general were huge. I remember, geez, I was like really young. I would say 3, maybe 3 or 4. I think my parents told me I was like 3, almost turning 4. And my mom said she thought I was reading a comic book because she was just like, "What, you can read at 3 years old?" Because I was just going through the pictures. I would just basically in my head making up the story as I looked at the pictures. So my first memory is Spider-Man comic, and that's been my #1 ever since. Well, besides that stuff behind me.
The stuff. You're the number 2 biggest crow collector?
Oh,
That one guy's on your channel. He's number 1, isn't he?
no, oh, no, that actually changed at WonderCon. I'm the number one now. The number one. Even Robert the Scalper said I was number one. So I'm number one now. All right, so X-Men comics trading cards. Those trading cards were a huge part of my childhood because I used to go to the store and buy a pack like probably every day after school, just because I wanted to get the whole series. And I think did series 1 have the let's see, were they hologram cards? I don't remember.
Yeah, there was 5, I think, 5 holograms. That was the kind of, I guess, the chases back then in those. And I didn't get those till later in life. I never got them when I was collecting back then. I think I had one. I think I had Magneto from series 1. I actually got from buying the packs. I had to get the rest, in card shops and a couple off eBay, once I got a little bit older.
When you got that adult money, not the kid money.
That's right. I started actually having to work for a living, not getting allowance, from mom every week.
So as you've gone through middle school with comics and trading cards, now you're getting into high school. So did all that change? Like, did the comic book stop? Did the toys not happen as you got into high school?
At toys, I bought a little when I was younger because I was got into the comics, like the X-Men Toy Biz figures came out, the Marvel Toy Biz. I bought some of those, but back then, I was young, I played with them. Once I got past the age where I actually played with action figures, I quit buying toys altogether. Comics, I collected comics. I still bought a few when I was able to drive. I remember driving to the comic stores, but I just kind of lost interest. I've been reading that stuff since 91. I didn't think the stories were as good and as engaging. I didn't like the shift in the artwork. They were trying to make it at that time. They were making the X-Men look more like anime-ish and manga, how you say it. And I like the traditional way it looked. I didn't like the way they were shifting it back then. So I got out of it then. And really, I've dabbled in comics since then. But as far as going back and picking up key back issues, I've never really picked them back up since then. I think the Batman Hush storyline is probably the most recent one. With The Last Ronin, I read The Last Ronin. But as far as superhero books, I say Hush is the newest thing I've read.
So as far as like the comic books and stuff, I know you said the Punisher is like your favorite character. So like what one comic stood out to you the most in your I know because you said X-Men number 1, but past that, like what was the comic book that stood out to you the most after X-Men?
The one that's my favorite probably of all time story. It's a trade paperback. It's a one shot with Ghost Rider, Wolverine, and Punisher called Hearts of Darkness, where they're called like that town called Christ Crown to fight Blackheart. I loved that story. I have read that comic I don't know how many times. I mean, that was my favorite all-time story growing up as far as a one-shot. That and the Infinity Gauntlet. But Hearts of Darkness, to me, that's always got a soft spot. I'll buy about if they put out a 3-pack of that today, I don't care if it's $150, I'm going to buy it to get that. I love that story and everything about that back when now the sequel to it sucked. I don't know if you remember that or not. I think it was the Dark Design, the Devil's Design, something like that. It was terrible, but Hearts of Darkness, man, that's hard to beat.
Do you have Hearts of Darkness currently?
I do, yes.
Oh, okay. Look at you.
Bought it when it was new. That's one there I will never part with. It's actually in my storage unit. I don't have it here in my room with me, but it is with the rest of my comics in my storage unit.
Is that something you see yourself getting graded?
No, I like looking at it.
Yeah, there you go.
Trading cards is the only thing that I collect that I would probably consider grading, just because once you get it graded, you can still look at both sides. You have a comic graded, you can never look at it. And I've got giant size X-Men number 1 that were probably graded at 8 or 8.5, but I'm not having it graded because I still like to look at it from time to time. I don't want to get it graded.
So do you want to sell it? I'm just kidding.
Nope. Right. My wife, my kids will sell that stuff when I'm gone.
Yeah, trust me. I have plenty of things my kids could sell. Is it worth that much? Probably not now. Maybe in the future. I mean, I don't know if this one will be worth much, but I do have this Todd McFarlane.
Oh, that is autographed. That is sweet.
Spider-Man number 1. So I don't know if you heard. I went to WonderCon and met Todd McFarlane.
I know, you got to meet him. Let's keep rubbing it in. That's okay. You can have your McFarlane because see him.
Yeah.
I had
I
this
knew
whole
this was going to
speech I
come
was
up.
going to do about telling you that I was decided to take on a co-host for The Man Collects, and I was going to debut him on your stream here, and here it is. Did you ever find this thing? I can't remember.
No, I haven't. Still haven't. Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't
Yeah.
resist.
Now that's the one thing about our friendship is we tend to rib each other probably more often than I would do to anyone else. I think it's fun, and like when you send me text to rub something in, I'm just like, damn, man, that was a good job. That was a good one. Like I don't know if I can one up him. I might not do it right away, but it's gonna happen eventually. Like again, this fantastic signed Spider-Man #1 by Tom
Yeah, I
McFarlane.
don't have him. The only McFarlane signature I've ever come close to getting was it Captain America, the Pose figure that he signed the card,
Oh,
and then the Green Goblin. I started to buy those, but man, I would love to have like a Spawn 1 or one of the Spider-Man books signed. That would be sweet.
see, that's where you have to come out here because he doesn't usually do a lot of like cons outside of the West Coast for some weird reason, except for New York Comic Con.
And see, Kelly and I have talked about one of these days. Now, like I've told you, one of my bucket list items one of these days, I want to go to San Diego Comic Con. I got to visit that at least once before I get old and too old to get out there.
That is a attainable thing that can happen. I like because I've told you before. I've told you that I'm going this year for the first time ever in my life, so I'm pretty excited. I know that you'll be able to go. So next year, I've already told you that I will give you that link right away when it's ready to go. Like let's get it going because that would be the ultimate fun. It's time going to Comic Con and hang out with you and probably getting made fun of the whole time by you. But I'll enjoy it.
Oh, same here. And like I said, my wife probably wouldn't like it too good because, newsflash, and some people don't know about me. I don't like to fly, so I'm gonna have to suck up to her, and she'll drive me across the. Of course, I'd like to do that anyways if I had the time to take off work. Is drive across the country. That's another thing that's on the bucket list. But I don't like airplanes. That's my biggest thing about Comic Con. You'd have to fly out there. There's no way the way her and I work that we'd be able to drive it at this stage in our life. But you'd have to get her to try to work on me as well to convince me to get on one of those winged flying coffins.
That's called liquid courage for a reason.
Yeah, that would work. That'd give me about half a bottle of Dramamine and knock me out for a few hours.
Yeah, it's cold. Can we get him an IV and alcohol to go? So, let's see, high school into adulthood. So, when did your, I guess, obsession, like most of us are obsessed with what we collect now, when did you get back into it? Like after high school, you weren't really into it that much, maybe comic books here and there, but fast forward to like, what brought you back into getting into comics and toys and whatnot?
Well, to get into that, I got to talk about some other personal stuff. I'll try not to get too weepy about here, but
Oh,
my
go
mom
ahead.
got sick. She got diagnosed with breast cancer probably around 2000. She passed away in 13. It's probably around 2007. That was just a trying time going through all that stuff. I mean, a lot of other bad stuff happened during all that. I guess personal traumas, all that crap. But I used to stop at Walmart, and I was probably, like I said, this is after she passed away. This is probably 2016, 2017. I had gained an obsessive amount of weight, fatter than I am now, and I had tried to start, getting back and getting healthy. So the Walmart in my hometown is actually 3 stories. It's got a 2-story parking garage, the store is on the top floor. So I started parking on the bottom floor. I'd walk up to the store and make a couple of laps before I go to work every morning just to get a little bit of exercise, and started looking at the toy aisle and going down the Lego aisle. And that I hadn't seen Lego sets in forever. And I was a kid, you didn't have the ones I had never had instruction booklets. They just bought me a set of blocks. You sit there, and I don't have the imagination and the skill to build something without instructions. But I kept looking at Speed Champions, and there was a Ferrari I kept looking at. And one morning I just bought the thing. And, I went to work that day, and I was an HR director. I was on conference calls, boring shit all day long, listening to stuff about FMLA and all that. So one of my conference calls, I just start tinkering with that little Lego, and I just noticed while I was doing that, that's what I focused on. I didn't think about any of the stresses that was going on in my head. There was nothing else but me and what was the next piece. And I kind of realized, hey, that kind of took me out of that. I was happy, I guess, doing that. I had something better to focus on, better other stuff that was going on in my life at that time. So then I started buying Lego sets, and you see how obsessive I am with toys. I mean, you should have seen me when I was a Lego collector, dude. I've still got I've got hundreds and hundreds of Lego sets. But when I found that release, it almost got like a drug. It's like, I would buy 1 or 2 Lego sets every week, put those things together, find a shelf for them and move on to the next. And until finally it brought me out of whatever slump I was into. But Lego is what got me back to collecting, long story short, as a way to kind of have therapeutic stuff to get over all that crap. But as far as toys, one of my best friends from high school, he and I have stayed in touch all these years, but he was texting one day. He just said, hey, have you looked in the toy aisle lately? And this is around the time McFarlane already had the DC license. It's probably around 2019-ish. I think the Ghostbusters, the first retro-carded old Ghostbusters were out. And he was talking about, so you look down the toy aisles, it's stuff from our childhood. The retro Turtles were on the shelves, the retro Ghostbusters. And I was like, dude, I can't look at toys. It's like, if I start buying toys with the Lego and stuff I'm buying, I'm going to be broke. I'm going to have to buy a whole new house to hold all this crap. But, lo and behold, as you can see where I am now, I kind of shifted away from Lego, but that's when I started getting back into action figures. Around the time the Asbat came out for McFarlane, I had started casually buying some toys up until that point. But that was the first thing I obsessed trying to find before I even started YouTube. But that's where it started for me, is getting back into multiverse and getting back into toys full time and shifting away from being a primary Lego guy. Was around, I think it was 19 or 20. I can't remember when that figure came out now, but it was trying to find that one, the first Walmart exclusive Asbat. I've actually got it on my shelf back there, but I don't think you can see it where the camera's turned.
Yeah, I can see it way back there. Oh, so what made you? So 2019. So that's when McFarlane started. It was literally like the pandemic happened and those got released. I remember that very vividly. Target had, I think, I remember only ever seen Green Arrow one time at Target, Superman, and I think Nightwing. I don't remember. I just remember one being having the Build-A-Figure, which is the Batmobile.
Mm-hmm. Better than Batman.
Yeah. And then I never saw them again. And then and that was when Walgreens carried a ton of toys, and I would see those there occasionally, and they're always more expensive than Target and Walmart. So DC Multiverse, which we can see in the background that you may have a little obsession with DC Multiverse. So the toys started about then. So the YouTube thing, because I know you and I have talked about this, but for the people that don't know, what made you get into the YouTube thing?
I never knew YouTube. I never knew toy hunting and putting on YouTube was a thing. I can't remember what it was. There was something I wanted to buy, and I just got the idea. Well, go to YouTube. Somebody's bound to have a advertisement or something. I didn't think about it. Somebody doing toy reviews, whatever it was. Man Cave Collectible Reviews. We've discussed that guy a few times. Whatever it was, he had done a review on it, and I watched it, and I got to see what other kind of videos he had, and I saw the toy hunt videos, and I'm sitting there. I kind of laughed at it at first. I was like, somebody actually films himself going through Walmart and Target. But then you get to looking at the views, like, crap, this guy's getting like 8,000-9,000 views a thing. And then, you search in toy hunting, and I found like Seth was on MCE at that time. Found Greg Cook, the big guys, are the ones that ever pushed. Shartimus, all those were on there, but I just started watching them. I thought it was fun. I actually, let's go back farther than that. I got the idea for YouTube when I was doing Lego, because I used to follow several Lego YouTubers, and they would do live streams and Lego content. I thought, I could do that. Even when I started building sets, I started doing commentary, kind of practicing for it. So that was my first goal, was not to do a toy hunt channel, because I wasn't into toys then, was to be a Lego YouTuber and try to get into land and all that crap and get free Lego sets. Was the ultimate goal, was to get free Lego sets from Lego. But But then I shifted to toys, found that whole other world, just got enthralled with it. I quit watching most main TV shows, and all I watched was YouTube, toy hunts and all that stuff, and got to thinking, like, I could do that. Because Kelly will tell you, she knows how much I talk to myself. If you ever meet my wife, I would walk down the toy aisle. The only thing I'm really doing different now is recording. I was still walking down through there talking and pointing at stuff and acting stupid and all that if nobody was around. But I just thought it would be fun. And then what really got me deciding to do it, like I said, Seth was my favorite. Seth quit. And I had been thinking about doing it for a while at that point. And then when he left, in my mind, I was like, well, there's an opening now. He's left. There's got to be somebody come in to step up. And I didn't know at that time there was thousands of damn toy hunters. I thought there was only like the ones that I watched, because I had never seen your channel, Archer, any of the guys. I didn't know about any of those guys. You know how YouTube is. They only push the big guys most of the time when you search stuff. But like I said, just got into it, decided to do it, and I filmed my first video about a week and a half before I actually took the plunge and put it out there, trying to get over the nerves of it. But I just thought it looked like fun. I wanted to try it. And like I said, I've only got one friend before I got into this that collected, and he collects sports cards. He collects a few toys, but he wasn't obsessed as I was. So I thought, I don't really want to be popular. I don't really have to have 1 million subscribers. I want to meet other collectors that I can talk to. So I'm not sending Kenny 8,000 texts of pictures of toys today that he's like, I don't give a crap about this or whatever. So just to kind of keep our friendship, preserved, I needed to find some more people to talk to. So I decided to do it, and we're here today.
That's right. Now look at you. So you've been doing YouTube for what, 2 years, 3 years now?
But it was 2 years in January. I think January 12th of 23 was my first upload. So yeah, I've been a little over 2 years.
Okay. So in 2 years, you were almost at 9,000, right? Subscribers.
8,950, unless I lost some since we started.
No, I don't think so. So I started a year before you, so I've been doing it. Oh, maybe it's been 4 years. I don't remember now. So what is it that so in 2 years, which is amazing that you have accomplished so much in 2 years. Like, it's crazy the amount of subscribers you have, and especially in your first year, I was like blown away. So what is it you think that appeals to people that watch your videos continuously, that your subscriber count keeps growing and growing and growing?
Well, I mean, I've been asked that a bunch of times, and I know people get frustrated, and people will email me, YouTubers start. It's kind of weird. I was in that position. It's kind of strange now when people come ask me. I don't have a flipping clue. I don't know why. Every video I put up, I think sucks. And I've said this before. Every time I put a video up, there's that thought in my head thinking this is going to be the one that tanks, and everyone after that's going to tank. But I guess I don't have much confidence in it. I don't know. But I don't know why people watch my stuff. Some theories I've got that I've thought is because I have been consistent. I think that it's because I put up videos the same time all the time. I think that helps you with the algorithm. I don't know that. It's just a theory. I cuss every now and then, but I try to keep my stuff kind of clean to where, anybody can kind of watch it. I've been getting worse with that lately. I need to get myself reined back in as far as that goes. But as far as why, I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, when I first started out, I didn't know how this stuff went. I had watched these channels that have thousands and thousands of subs and get thousands of views. I didn't think I was doing that good. And I always go back to a post that I made when I hit 500 subs. It's like, I finally hit 500. And I got some hateful comments about that I was bragging and all that crap. I didn't realize, honestly, that I hit 500 in a fast amount of time. I thought I was not growing very well. But long-winded answer, I have no idea why people watch. I think the consistency helps. I find stuff. I usually have pretty good luck finding the new stuff to have people to look at. I don't know. You say it's my sexy Southern accent. Maybe that's what draws them in. Huh? Kelly says my voice puts people to sleep. So it could be that too. The ASMR stuff. She says my voice is relaxing when I'm in the aisle because I talk kind of low because there's people in the aisle. And she thinks that's one thing they might like is the way my voice sounds. I don't know.
I will die on my sword that it's what it is. It's the Southern sexy drawl. That's what it is. and the second thing would be that you're consistent, like 3 videos a week. I think you're probably the most consistent person that I watch, maybe besides like Seth. Trying to think, and Colin, but yeah, you for a fact are probably the most consistent person as far as like people I watch in like YouTube and toys. Like every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I get that notification on my phone, even though at work, and I'll set up my phone and I'll watch it while I'm working. So kudos to you for being consistent because it's very hard to do it. Yeah, like I don't know, I can't do that. You also have many more stores, I think, around you because you do travel for work a lot, so you're able to go to different places, which is also a huge advantage that some, I guess, YouTubers don't have that do toy hunting. Because you will send me things early in the morning, and I'm just like, you gotta be freaking kidding me. He's already found it. Damn it. No, it's funny because I think I've told you this. When you find something, it drives me not crazy. It drives me to go try to find it in my hometown.
Exactly right.
Me a picture of Optimus Prime Hot Wheel. That was it Friday? I can't remember now.
I think so. I think I found that Friday morning.
Yeah, and I was just like, dang, I need to find that because my son's a Transformers collector. And what happened later on that day? I was like, hey, look what I found.
And see, that's one thing. It was one of my goals when I first started this. I wanted to help people find stuff because 2 YouTubers that I watched, well, 3 kind of, that helped me buy a lot of stuff that they have no idea. 2 North Carolina guys, Kent Pool Collects and Man Cave. Whenever they would see something, if I hadn't seen it in my area, it was probably maybe a month and it would hit my area. But Greg Cook is only about 2.5, maybe 3 hours from me. If I watch his videos and I saw him find something I hadn't seen, it was game on because I knew it was probably a week or less before it hit my area. So he started finding it. I started hunting more, but I've got those comments before, like, hey, I didn't know that was hitting it. Thank you for showing this or something like that. I like that better than, getting 10,000 subs and all these views. I like the community and helping and doing stuff like that more so than trying to be popular and trying to get this or that. The subs come and go. The people you meet and the relationships you make, that's what lasts.
So, as long as you've been doing YouTube and everybody that you have, I guess, not met in person, like you've met a lot of guys now recently because of like Toylanta and stuff. So, out of everyone that you haven't met yet, what is the reason like that you continue to watch? I'm not saying me, like everyone else besides me. What makes you watch their videos still?
I still watch Greg Cook and Kent Pool Collects for the reason I already said, trying to get a gauge on when something's coming to my area. Seth was always my favorite through MCE, and then also when he come back and has his own channel now. As far as what it was about him, he's animated. I like that. He's got a big booming voice when he goes through there, and he finds crap. He goes, you know how it is. You see a video, we might go to 2 stores, and those 2 stores are loaded. What they don't see in the background, we went to 15 stores. We just didn't put the other ones in the video. But, every time I watch his videos, like, man, he's hitting like 2, before I knew how the game, I guess, worked or whatever. But he hit 2 stores and found everything I'm trying to find. This guy's the best. And maybe he did just hit those 2 stores. I don't know. I'm not saying he does that. But I know when you see my videos, you may only see 3 Walmarts. Hell, I've probably been to 10 trying to find what I found. But like I said, just that's what drew me to him. Just his personality and the way he interacted when he had the other guys on there. Just I liked watching it. Like I said, with some of the others, it was just trying to guess based on where they were when it got to me. And like I said, that network of watching 3 to 4 now has got like 10 or 15. I can't keep up with everybody that I want to watch now because I have met so many people and I want to support them. I just don't have the time all the time to get in there. Like Rough Shot, he does the live premieres every night. I used to try to get on his every night, but with work and stuff, I haven't got to watch him as much as I used to. And hope those guys know it's nothing personal. I do have personal life that kicks me sometimes. It keeps me from doing this stuff. So it's fun though. Still like it.
Well, it's good. So I don't know. Like I know I'm pretty sure you've told me this, but for everyone that is new to you from tonight or listens to this later on or watches it later on, So what is it about DC Multiverse that is like your number one go-to?
Oh, this is going to be a boring answer. Do you really want to know the reason I started collecting Multiverse over everything else?
Yep.
It was $19.97 a figure when I started collecting it. Everything else was more expensive. It's all about the price. I was always a Marvel guy growing up. I loved Marvel. You know, I had more favorite characters. Batman and Superman was really my biggest draws for DC. You know, when I was a kid, I was more of a Marvel guy. But you know, Legends were already $25 each when I started collecting, and I thought, I know myself. I know once I get into something, I'm going to go. I mean, look at the wall, but this is all. It's only a small sample. There's multiverse all around this room of stuff that I've got for DC. I go obsessive with this crap, and I knew if I was going to do that, I needed to pick one that was somewhat affordable. And of course, his prices have went up. Now he's right almost getting close to what the Legends are. But that was the biggest thing for me. The figures looked good for one. I liked them, the ones that I had, and then the price point. You know, they were cheaper than a lot of the other options.
So out of all the multiverse you have currently, are you a completist where like you have to have every single figure that he produces?
I toyed with that when I first got into it, but I've never.
Mhm.
There's certain waves I want all, but anybody that collects or anybody that's familiar with the toys knows McFarlane puts out way too much crap. I would be broke. I'd have to have 3 of these buildings to hold all the multiverse to be a completionist on it, because it's gotten worse over the years with everything having a damn variant, trying to find chases
Mhm.
and platinums and all that stuff. So I backed off of that. I don't try to. I was going to be a completionist on the collector's edition figures, but after the first 2 waves, you realize, okay, he's going to put out a common and a platinum for every figure in this wave. It's like, I'm not
Mhm.
doing that. And I have downsized a lot of my McFarlane. You can't tell by looking behind me, but no, as far as that, I don't think you can be a completionist on McFarlane unless you just have a stupid amount of money to throw at this stuff. You know, an unlimited amount of disposable income. It'd be kind of hard to do. And then space, where are you going to put it all?
Right. And being as an adult as we all are, um, trying to collect, well, having a main line that you collect, which would be for you would be multiverse, also with multiple other um like lines that are like out, like Marvel Legends. You mentioned that, like there's like NECA, there's the Street Fighter, the Jada stuff, there's Hot Toys and stuff like that that other people just collect, just straight Hot Toys or like Prime One statues, which are like high end, super expensive stuff. um, if DC Multiverse didn't exist, I probably know this answer because you've already probably said it. Would it be Marvel Legends or would it be something else?
Uh, I would probably buy more Legends if there wasn't a multiverse option, but probably my next figure line down that I enjoy the most, and they don't put out a whole lot of them, which is one good thing, is the Jada Street Fighter. You know, that
Mhm.
is one I am going all in on that. I know they're starting to do the variants now, making 2 of each character, like I just complained with the multiverse, but you got 3 figures coming out, and then you won't see another 3 figures for what, 2 or 3 months? It's not like they're coming out every
Right.
other week, but that's really, I mean, as far as figures, I probably enjoy those the most now outside of Todd McFarlane. And then another brand that's kind of more off the mainstream that I used to complain about and say I didn't understand and I didn't get it, that I'm starting to get more into, or Horseman. Starting to
Yep.
really enjoy those. And my wife likes those figures, so it makes it a little bit easier, you know, where she kind of likes those things too. But getting more and more into those here as time goes on, I see more of them.
Yeah, that's the one thing I have yet to dive into. Um, I I'm too. I think I'm too like. I don't know if I would say loyal because that would sound shillish. Um, I think Marvel Legends has been like my go-to, and it has ever since Marvel Legends came out. And then they went to Marvel Universe, the 3 3/4 inch, and that was when my son was younger, and I would just buy them because I technically wanted them, but I wanted him to have them, and
But
it
much
turned
does.
into obsession. Yeah, it turned into obsession for me, and I just that's kind of like what got me back into collecting was when my son was born, and I started getting him things. And I was like, no, oh no, this is all bad now. I'm getting back into what I did as a kid, and I mean, just like your back of you, all your DC multiverse. I mean, look at all this. There's I can't put anything anywhere. I have no room. Like running out of room, and that's a collector problem. Running out of room.
That's what I'm fighting now. Like I told you, if we went to Toyland, I sold 58 multiverse figures. I sold a bunch of legends. I sold all my Simpsons figures I've been buying. I sold a lot. I can't remember how many it was total, but and I've got 2 more boxes over here now that I've been going through because I've got to downsize. And that's one thing I'm going to start with. So, McFarlane's going to be going out of the DC stuff. I don't know yet about if I'm going to go in too much on Mattel when they take it back over, but I got to refocus this stuff out here. I buy too much. I need to start calming down and being a little more selective on what I get. But yeah, it's easy to lose control with this crap. And like I said, I think the YouTube thing kind of feeds it, makes it worse. Cause like you said, I see you find something or I see other guys looking for something and they can't find it. It might be a transformer. And then I'll go out and see it and think that's what everybody wants right now. I found it. I have to buy it. I got out of that mindset really, really quick early on with this. I was buying crap I don't even collect just because I had that hype and FOMO, I guess, built up in me. But now everybody says they're trying to get more select, especially as prices are going up. But I really got to try to pump the brakes a little bit and focus more on what am I going to focus on? What's going to be the focal point of this collection room once McFarlane Toys stops making DC Multiverse? Because I'm not buying all these characters again under Mattel.
Yeah, it's overkill to at that point. Like, how many Batmans can you have? Like, he makes a Batman in every wave. Just imagine, like, Mattel takes over. Maybe it ends up being like a wave with every wave comes with a Superman because the movies come out. Like, we don't know what's going to happen. That's kind of like, I feel like Marvel Legends is that way. It's like every wave either has an Iron Man, a Spider Man, or a Captain America, or a Wolverine, and you can only have so many, I guess.
Well, I mean, can you really? I mean, does it really hurt to have? I mean, if I would do an account back here, let's just say I've got 200 multiverse figures back here. I'd say probably over 100 of them is going to be a Batman or a version of it.
Yeah,
because he puts out a bunch of them. But I buy them. I can't complain about it too much. I buy the things, so I'm part of the problem, I guess. The way he cranks them Batman out is I go buy the things.
And then he is like, right. That's one thing McFarlane said when he took over the DC license. Batman, it doesn't matter what Batman he brings out, it sells because it's Batman. And it's the same thing with Marvel. Like, you put out a Spider-Man, it's gonna sell because they're the most probably iconic besides Superman for DC, and I don't even know, like, Marvel. When I think of Marvel, all I think of is Spider-Man because he was always pushed as the front and to the front of everything. Iron Man and Captain America were never really pushed. I would say maybe Hulk and Wolverine would be the second and third most pushed when I was a younger. That would sell if it was just going to be those. But yeah, he says that like Batman sells, and he's not wrong.
Like, no, like I said, every wave, like the Dawn of Justice or the Batman or Superman wave that come out, everybody was after that. The last wave with Bale, Keaton, and the Nightmare Batman and all that, people were after that like crazy. I can only speak for my area where I hunt and some of the areas I watch, but if it hit the pegs at 8 o'clock that morning when Target opened, if you went back at 10 a.m., they were gone. I mean, you couldn't find them if you didn't get them there. So they do sell. I mean, he's got all kinds of sales statistics, I guess, where he can look and see, what's selling and what's not.
Yeah. So out of all your DC multiverse, because I know you have a lot, could you name one of them that is your favorite out of every one of them that you own right now?
As far as, I guess, getting me into the line, as Bat, because that's the first one that I ever got that I really, really enjoyed. The next one in that vein is going to be Vampire Batman, because anybody that watched my channel early on knows I obsessed over finding that figure probably the first 3 months I did YouTube. But my all-time favorite multiverse figure was one of the more recent ones is that Platinum Azrael with the blue armor. I love that figure. I think he got that one pretty close to the source material. And as far as looks-wise and just picking it up and just looking at it happily like a newborn baby, that's my favorite one.
Yeah, man, that thing took me forever to find. And I think you maybe sent me that. I don't remember now because someone sent it to me, and because I had been hunting and hunting, and I was like, I just gave up. And just, do you always find it funny, like when you are hunting for something, and you see like all of us find it, and you still don't find it, and then finally say like, one of us sends it to you, like, hey, we're gonna send it to you, that you end up finding it as soon as you get it? Do
Yeah.
you find that happen? Yeah.
I don't remember if I sent it to you today or not, but one thing, I mean, and even giving up and going to secondary market, I've had that happen with two figures, the platinum Green Lantern Batman, the translucent one. I couldn't find it. I
Mhm.
bought it off eBay. I'm not going to say what I paid for it because it was way over retail. I go to Best Buy a week later. There's two of them on the shelf. That platinum Aquaman from the Task Force wave. I paid $40 for that at Toy Atlanta. I go in GameStop today, and guess what's hanging on the peg? Platinum
Dang.
Aquaman for regular price. But yeah, I've had that happen several times where people will email me. The only thing that I got sent that I never found, and shout out to the Adventurous Joe because he sent me this figure, was the Platinum Lucius Fox. I never saw that anywhere
Oh
close to
yeah.
my area. And I even traveled all the way to like Delaware for work during that time. I didn't see it traveling up through there at any of the stores. But that's the only one that I've been sent that I didn't end up finding somewhere in the wild. I saw it at toy shows, but I don't count that. I never saw it at retail.
Right. Yeah, I actually, yeah, I remember that, and I remember showing you. Well, it was more like me kind of like gloating. Hey, look what I found, and
You found like
had them
six
all
of them,
lined up.
figurehead.
Yeah, yeah. I felt like I continuously was buying them. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna send this to him. I'm gonna send this to him. And I was like, you sure you don't want me to get it for you? Because I'll get it for you. You're like, no, I want to find it. So that's like one thing as a toy collector and toy hunter is, do you find yourself rather go find it than have someone who's found it multiple times? Like, hey, let me just get you one and I'll send it to you. Is that like a thing for you? Like you have to find it?
I want to preface before I answer. I appreciate anybody who has helped me. You sent me stuff. JB, a guy named Vlad the Impaler, Mike, William Golden. A lot of people have sent me stuff. I left anybody out. I'm sorry with that if you've helped me out. Joe Michaels, like I said, with that Lucius Fox, but I want to find it. The thrill of the hunt is what I enjoy the most about this. I don't like pre-ordering stuff, even though I do stuff I don't want to miss. I don't want to order it off Amazon. I don't want to order it off Target and go pick it up curbside. I want to go in the store and find it on the peg. To me, it almost feels like almost a failure if I have to. I don't want to saying resort sounds bad. If I have to use that in order to get a figure, get somebody to get it for me, I take that as a failure. I couldn't find that. My hunter's ego, like I always say, took a hit. But really, that's the only thing. The thrill of the hunt and finding it, that's what I want. I don't want to order it and it come in a box. I don't want to have to depend on somebody else to get it. I want to find it. But now some of this stuff, if I can't find it, of course, I'm going to go to those avenues to get it if somebody is willing to help.
Yeah, that's kind of how I am. Like I rather find it. I mean, everyone's territory is different. That's one thing I can tell you as a toy collector and toy hunter. Like you've mentioned before, you have many, many, many Walmarts around you that you can go to at any given time. I'm trying to remember, Targets are the same way there or no?
I've got 3 targets. So one of them's close to where I work. If I didn't work where I did, I only have 2. That's probably within 30 minutes of me. But there's not. I've got Walmarts. When I drive to work, there's probably 8, 9 Walmarts between here and my office for all because I drive over an hour to work one way every day, right up the Interstate 81 corridor here in Tennessee and Virginia. So Targets are a little bit less, but the Walmarts, they're all over the place down here.
Man, that's crazy. That's like when I lived in Sacramento, there's Targets, they're like, but they're just so spread out all over Sacramento. Walmart's the same thing. There's a lot of them that I never knew existed till I moved back home where I'm from. um, uh, there's a lot, and I was like, dang, there's a lot. I need to go hunt there. But then again, when you go to another city, that's the one thing I don't want to do is go to a Target or a Walmart. I want to go to the places like a toy shop or a comic book shop that I've never been to. Those are like my main focus. Is that kind of like the same thing for you when you go to another town? Or say like you were to come to California. Obviously it's going to be Southern California because there's not really that much up in Northern California. Besides like Frankensons would because I know you watch other hunters in California. What other places in like say California would you want to hunt?
It's the guys at Toy Depot that sponsors you. Since I've seen people
Mhm.
go into there before, I like to check them out. Now, I've seen tons of toy shops on other hunters' videos. There's one you used to go to. I think it might have been a small one, just opened up that had some cool stuff that you went to maybe sometime last year, but I can't remember the names of them. But that's the one thing when I do travel, that's what, most a lot of times Kelly will drive. We're going through these different states, and I'm on my cell phone, Target, search Target near me, search Walmart near me, and I'm busting all these Walmarts and Targets. And I'm kind of the opposite. I look more for, I guess, the modern stuff than looking for toy shops to go to when I go out of town. But now there are some, like Frankenson is one. I'd love to go to Frankenson. I'd love to go to Toy Depot. I will go to Toy Federation one of these days. They're only about 3 hours from me, so I'm going to hit them one of these days. Needless Toys is another good one over here I like to get to. I've been to one of their stores, but I haven't been to the main store. But that's one thing my area lacks, is why I don't really think about toy shops, because I don't have that many here. There's one I've been to a few times, Time Travel Toys. He's new, getting started out, and he's sold toys forever, but he just got a store here probably in the last 6 months to a year. But there's only 3 here, and as far as having any kind of good, I guess, selection of vintage, only one of them is a real option for that, to go to have any kind of big inventory. The others don't keep a whole lot in stock. So long story short, I don't have a good toy store around here, so I don't really have that mentality when I go out hunting, because I'm not used to going to them.
Yeah, that was because that was like one of the main things when I went to Southern California last year, and Raphael was just like, you have to go to Frankensons, and I've seen enough videos to where I'm just like, really, do I really have to go? Like, I guess like to go experience it. And that's something like when our buddy Art goes to California or comes to California, that's like one of his main things that he has to stop at is Frankensons. To me, when I went, I was just like, oh, this is, it's overwhelming for one. I'll just tell you, I'm going to prepare you right now. It's overwhelming because right when you walk in, it's just boom right there. You're just like, wow, this is a lot of stuff to look through, because it's like an old Costco that they took over or something like that. So it's pretty big. They have a lot of stuff. There's like most of it, like I think it's 1 or 2 vendors. I can't remember now. It might be 2 of them that have stuff like way before a store ever has it. And I'm not going to name them because I don't want to get them in trouble. Because they've already gotten in trouble for like all the Motu stuff that they sell. And so there's the one, I can't remember the name. I do remember it, but they have a sign that says no filming because they got in trouble for having all the new Motu stuff, all the Turtle of Grayskull stuff. Like, literally, I saw it all there before it ever hit a shelf. And where I'm at, or anyone else, like they were just like, they had all the Street Fighter stuff that I've never seen that was already out or coming out. I think that they had Street Sharks that I've never seen any Target until I went to SAT recently. That was the first time I've ever seen a Street Shark in Target. But that place at Frankensons had the whole wave, and I was like, you gotta be kidding me.
What are the prices like there? I've heard they're pretty.
They're pricey.
I've
They're
heard them
expensive.
call it Scalper and Son. I mean, I've never been. I'm not trying to say throw shade at them. That's what you hear them called all the time, is Scalper and Son.
Yeah. I mean, some vendors there do have things priced like retail. Like, can't remember what did I buy there. I mean, I went. The main reason I went there was because I wanted to experience it, and I was hunting after Ultimate Spider-Man #1, then that one that came out last year. So that was what I was after, and that was what I wanted. And I was also looking for Crow stuff that I didn't have. Trying to think, because it was my birthday that Sunday, and I think Robert Scalper, he bought me M Bison, and it wasn't even out anywhere, and then it was retail. I was like one of the few places that I remember that had things at retail, but everything else was like ludicrous prices. Like, I don't know, and a lot of those places will not negotiate. It is what it is. So just prepare yourself to, when you go there, that you're either going to spend a lot of money or you're going to get frustrated that you can't negotiate with these people.
Is it as bad as FYE?
Well, that's I don't have one of those there anymore. Oh shoot. I don't know. I would say, I don't know. Art would maybe be able to answer that better than me. Probably. I would say they're as bad as that. Some vendors, not all.
FYE freaking sucks, man. I like going in there because I can see things I don't normally see at retail. But
Mhm.
I remember I think it was the Banner and Hulk 2-pack, the Avengers 60th, when it was at
Oh
Ollie's,
yeah.
for $20. They had it at my local FYE for the very low price of $89.99.
That's just out of control. I'm really surprised that place stays. It's still around, honestly.
There's been a lot. I think some of them have closed. I know the one when I
Mhm.
go to the GameStop and I saw Virgo talking about good old Johnson City there a while ago, but right across the hall from that GameStop is an FYE. But it's every week now. I'm starting to wonder if they're in trouble, going to go out of business. Every week they've got clearance sales, 75% off posted everywhere on that store. But I still don't go in there because hell, their 75% off is still more than retail most of the time.
Yeah, they're ridiculous. There's one. Trying to think. There's one that's like 2 hours. Yeah, 2 hours away from me. The last time I went there, they literally had nothing. It was like empty. I was like, "How is this place still around? Though there's nothing in here." Like even their vinyl records were $50, and then that was like something I could find at Target for 22. Sometimes I was just like, "Wow, I don't know how this place stays open anymore." I love going in there because there's things that I never see. So like what you're saying, like there's things that you see. I wonder why, because they're not selling for $90.
And the bad thing is, there are going to be some people that go in there that aren't in the know, and they're going to see that and
Mhm.
buy that, not realizing they can go probably to the Walmart down the street, or like in that mall I'm talking about, across the way to Johnson or the GameStop, and get it for 60% less price. But
Mhm.
that sucks. I say the good stuff to look at, like you said, but nah, that's not a place I'm going to buy from.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is that we don't have in California that drives me crazy is Ollie's. Like,
Ollie's is awful.
remember yeah, I remember last year you were finding things left and right, and I was like, "You've gotta be freaking kidding me." Like
Ollie's is good, but Ollie's and Ross also tick me off because there'll be some figures I strive to find at retail, and then you find them and you pay full retail, and then a month later, like the ones I was sending you today, you got the
yeah.
Zabu Build-A-Figure wave starting to hit Ross for $5.99. You got the Strange Tales wave starting to show up. Some of the figures from that for $5.99. And it seems to be, I know Hasbro's doing more fan channel. It's more exclusives and fan channel that I've noticed showing up in some of this stuff outside of the Eternal. That shit's going to be at Ollie's for 10 years from now. But I said most of the time it's the exclusive stuff you see hitting this stuff that for the big discounts. So kind of makes me wonder, do I need to be paying full price for fan channel stuff or just do the Ollie's, gamble or whatever? See if it shows up there, shows up at Ross.
Yeah, I don't. It's weird just for me to like when you sent me those pictures. I was just like, "You gotta be freaking kidding me!" Like that Strange Tales wave just like that come out in December, I think, of last
It wasn't
year.
too long ago.
Yeah, and it's like that was only one. So if you start seeing different characters, then I'd be like, okay, well, maybe I should have waited. But then again, my Ross, I've been going. I don't film it really that often. It's been pretty bad. Even like when I walk in, they'll tell me like, "Oh yeah, we don't have any action figures. There was nothing on the truck that was even like remotely what you collect." I'm like, "All right," then I just leave. um, yeah, it's crazy, especially with what's going on right now and toys in general. We'll see what happens. So I'm pretty sure that I know this. Did you back the Mythic Legion Dragon? Whatever, I can't remember what that's called.
Well, I'm going to plead the fifth in case Kelly's still awake. But there's a chance, that come 2026 there might be a dragon out here.
So the Mythic Legions, you see yourself getting more into that versus like the comic book type stuff?
I'll still buy the comic stuff because the Legions I like because the paint, the detailing, the what you can do posing them up. If you have dioramas, I like stuff like that. But now I don't have that pull to them like I do with like the comic book characters and stuff like that. So I would never, unless the comic characters got so stupid priced that I couldn't buy them, I might go to that. But I'm never going to be like, okay, I'm done with Marvel and DC. I'm buying nothing Mythic Legions. But I didn't get them. Like I said, I didn't understand the hype behind them because they didn't have that big IP, pushing them
Mhm.
towards people. until you kind of get more into this and you kind of get more into the quality of the figures. Like, I held that one up a while ago. I mean, the paint, the detail on this thing doesn't compare to what you pay for Marvel Legend, but now you're not paying for a license with this. You're getting a kind of a custom figure. You're not having to pay to make a likeness of it. But I'm always going to lean more towards the intellectual property stuff. I've got more of a nostalgic tie and history with that than I do the Legion figures.
Yeah, I feel like that if you're into like that mythical stuff that pertains to like why people collect it, or maybe not. I only knew of them because I thought that they were like a new Masters of the Universe because the guys, I think it's two of them or a couple of them worked for Mattel when they did Motu Classics, because those were like basically what Mythic Legion is now, from my understanding. And that was the only first time I ever heard of them. Was I thought that whatever character, I don't know what they called him, was like Skeletor, and I was like, dude, that's a pretty cool Skeletor. But then I was like, Mythic Legion, what the hell is this? That was the only time I ever heard of Mythic Legion, was because they had a Skeletor looking guy. And I was a big Motu guy as a kid, and I just couldn't get into them. But I honestly, I see the appeal. Like, I've seen them in person. It wasn't until Frankenstein's when I actually seen them. I see the appeal to them because there's so much, like, in a sense, customizing you can do with them, like swapping heads and arms and legs, and all the people that make clothes for them on Etsy. It's crazy. So I can
That
see
is
how
something I
pricey
like.
they become.
All the figures, I mean, they've made that I know of. I mean, maybe some is different, but you can, like that one I showed, you can swap that head with any figure that you got with them. Because that kind of ticks me off, especially with G.I. Joe and Marvel Legends. Why can't they make the freaking head studs the same size on those, where you can pop like Punisher's head off and put it on Snake Eye's body or whatever? To do like that. That's my level of being able to customize. I can't paint. I'm not artistic. My customization is pop and swap, taking pieces off of one figure and putting on another. I just wish Hasbro would do that. Now I understand, like, McFarlane's not going to do that with Hasbro and stuff like that. But hell, you think, Hasbro with two different lines would make it compatible like that. Look at the Mix Masters. You can the Mix Masters. You can put them together with Transformers and Star Wars and everything else. They need to do that with their main action figures.
Yeah, and because I know you've brought that up before, like with G.I. Joe Classified and Marvel Legend, they are the same company. I also find it very interesting that why is it that the G.I. Joe team can do so much more? Like, to me, they're way more like, and I want to say McFarlane, but as far as like the paint apps, the accessories you get with them, like G.I. Joe, you get a ton of accessories. They look cool. There's so much like I guess like the molding to them, and like the clothing, it just looks like real clothing. It's like, why can't you get the Marvel Legends team and the G.I. Joe team to like collaborate and help each other out? Like the one thing that Marvel Legends I feel like has over G.I. Joe is just articulation, especially with the hot button item Maximum Spider-Man. So I don't see a G.I. Joe being like that, but I'm just saying, like, why can't they work together and help each other out? G.I. Joe figures look great. Marvel Legends are great, but G.I. Joe just, I don't know. There's just something to those that I feel like if you're going to put those side by side in the store, I'm probably going to pick a G.I. Joe over a Marvel Legend at that point.
Well, like I said, the accessories, I'm guessing, Hasbro owns the Joes. They don't have to pay any kind of licensing fee to anybody. You always talk about the, the Disney tax and all that crap, but that's the only thing I can really think of is why you don't get as much with Legends than you do the Joes. And even with like Star Wars, you don't get very many accessories of Black Series there, as you do with the Joes and stuff like that. It's got to be where they own it. And going back to like Mattel, if you look at the Masterverse figures, I think that, as far as my personal opinion, the Masterverse He-Man figures, paint apps, accessories you get, just look and posability of the figures, I think that's some of the nicest figures out there as far as comparing to McFarlane and all that. And they're cheaper. But, Mattel owns, the He-Man. They don't have to pay any licensing fees. But hate to always blame it on that. That's the only thing I can think of with that.
Yeah, I mean, that is definitely one of the main things is Hasbro does own Transformers, which they do license out. They own G.I. Joe, which they license out. So they're making a ton of money off of it. So that would make, yeah, that does make sense why they're able to do that. And with Marvel and I'm trying to think what else, Star Wars, they can't because it's just like they have to pay $1 billion for a freaking license. And it's just like, we want more. And that's why I feel like the Maximum Hulk, which is another hot button right now, I thought for the $60, it really wasn't that bad because all we've ever complained about is we want more head sculpts. And then they gave us 3 head sculpts and everyone bitched because it wasn't the head sculpts people wanted. I'm like, you what do you want at this point? And that's something that we talked about yesterday, Steve and I. And this is what I think McFarlane's done really well with was the faceplates. Why can't Marvel do that? Like they did that with Giant Man, the HasLab.
Well, here's one thing about the collecting community. I'll let a little secret let you in on. It don't matter what these toy companies do. It don't matter what they give us. It don't matter what the price is. Bitch is going to bitch. I mean, there's always going to be people are going to find something to complain about nowadays. But even like you said, I thought Maximum Hulk when the price point got revealed on that, I was like, okay, people aren't going to be as mad about this. And you start reading comments like, oh my God, they're still mad. But yeah,
Yeah.
the face plates, I got to say, I'm not a fan of the face plates. I'd rather have a
Okay.
head to pop off and switch because Guy Gardner, for one, for Multiverse in the collector's editions, that the
Hmm.
ones I have seen, I haven't paid much attention to the chase, but the common, there's a noticeable difference in the color between the faceplate and his neck. And then, too, I
Okay.
don't like seeing, I know you can still see the line for the articulation where the head turns. I don't like seeing that line down there where you can pop them off. And I don't have any out loose in here that has those, but you know, if you look at those collector's editions and you shake the box a little bit, the faceplate falls off. So
True.
how secure are they once you pop them on there? And it could just be a QC issue with that figure. I don't know, but I have shook a couple of those in the store and the plate fall off in the box. I was like, well, I don't want that one now. I don't want anybody to see me do that either. So I hang it back up.
Yeah, I used to see that mostly with Huntress. Her face is always off, like all the time.
It's
And it's
creepy looking. I don't
funny.
want to come out here in my toy room and see a figure laying there with no face hanging on looking at me.
What you don't want to be scared at night when you go into your toy room, Chris?
No, I come in here for a place to relax. This is a zenful place out here. I
That
did
is
get
true.
scared
It
out
is
here a while
really.
ago. I was out here earlier doing my video, just a little personal stupid story, but I've got a Ring camera and I heard something at the front door of my room out here. I thought it was one of the kids coming out here. So I turned the Ring camera on. There's nothing out here and you see a light. So I go in and tell my wife somebody was on in front of my building out there. So she gets to looking at the cameras and there's a cat. Our neighbor's got a freaking cat, and that cat had got up here banging around on the porch. And I was in here about to get a gun, start shooting through the door, and I'd have killed the neighbor's kitty cat if I'd have done that. So, like I said, it's 11. I'm starting to get a little stupid and trippy here. If I get on these little side tangents, you're just gonna have to
Oh, you're good.
reel me back in.
Oh man. So before we close up this episode, what is what is a toy line or what are you looking forward to the most in 2025? It could be a movie, it could be an album, it could be a book, it could be pretty much an action figure. Like, what is it you're looking forward to the most this year?
As far as toys, my outlook on toys right now is kind of a little bleak, I guess, because you
Hmm.
got prices doing what they're going to do, and I'm not getting into any discussions about tariffs and crap like that. All I'm going to say is this: once the manufacturers raise their prices, anything causing that price to increase, if it goes away, they're not going to drop them back down. If they raise
Nope.
Legends to $35 and all that stuff goes away, it goes back to normal, Hasbro's not going to be like, okay, everybody, we're rolling the prices back. And that's one thing that's going to make it more selective about that. But as far as my positivity for this year, I am looking forward to Avengers Doomsday. I am hoping, I know everybody likes him as Iron Man. I am hoping that Robert Downey Jr. as Doom can bring the MCU back to where it was at Endgame, because I am one of those people. I have not enjoyed the MCU since Endgame. Now, some of the shows, X-Men 97, Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, Daredevil is flipping amazing. Daredevil Born Again. That's got
Mhm.
my interest back in it, but I want the movies to get back to where they were with like Winter Soldier, the Iron Man movies, then going into the Infinity Saga. I want to see that bounce back. So my biggest optimism for this year is Doomsday, and the lead up to that is hopefully going to revitalize some of the MCU.
I can agree with that. I mean, I think, well, I wouldn't say like people would call me a Marvel shill, even though that's like my main thing. Um, I am looking very forward to Thunderbolts. I, I have a friend was able to see a screening like 4 weeks ago, maybe a little longer, and he said to me, "This movie is going to surprise people. For one, two, it's going to bring people back to the MCU." And I was like, "I sure as hope so." And he's like, "Trust me, when I tell you that this is the movie that's going to bring everybody back." And I'm like, "It's interesting that it would be a group of characters that were side characters in all these other movies, all besides Bucky, is going to bring the MCU back." And I think the big appeal is there's a lot of like I didn't realize that Sentry was that big of a deal. I guess because there's a ton of people that are super excited for Sentry, and I'm not gonna lie, I am. And they've shown, I think yesterday they showed 7 new trailers in different languages, and you still don't see his face, which is fine with me. I mean, the Marvel Legend already ruined it, but still, I'm excited for that movie. And I
I think
woke up
that
early
has
to
the
buy
potential.
tickets.
I know when Marvel was having hit after hit after hit, and Guardians of the Galaxy, that started
Mm,
coming. I got to thinking, okay, Guardians of the Galaxy, I liked that comic back in the day, but I don't see that being a big movie. And of course, I was completely wrong about that. I kind of see Thunderbolts having that kind of same potential because a lot of my friends that I talked to had the same mentality. Like, Guardians of the Galaxy ain't the Avengers. It's not going to be a big movie, whatever, whatever, whatever. And of course, that it was. And I can see the Thunderbolts kind of having kind of that fly under the radar kind of thing come in with a good,
mhm.
strong movie that can propel them up there like that. So I hope they do. And I hope the DC, EU, or Gunverse, whatever they're calling it now. But I got to say that I like the Superman trailer. I'm not super. I'm more hyped about Doomsday than I am Superman. The Superman trailer didn't get me there where I was. So
I mean, I can't lie, like Superman was like the thing I remember besides Spider-Man the most, probably because I watched Christopher Reeve's Superman so much when I was a kid. But I'm not a big Superman fan, like at all. I don't. I think I relate more to the Marvel characters, and I'm pretty sure I talked about this yesterday because it's like they're actual like people that have everyday problems that just accidentally something happened to them versus DC characters that are just all super powered. Well, besides Batman, I guess, but just like super powered or overly rich. Then you have like Iron Man, who's the overly rich alcoholic. So yeah, the appeal to the Marvel is that's the reason because they're more like Daredevil, for instance, lawyer, blind, became blind as a kid, and what happened to him? He started um, doing martial arts, and boom, he becomes a superhero. Spider Man gets bit by a radioactive spider. Like everyone knows that for as long as I can remember, there isn't anyone that doesn't know Spider Man, for instance. So, and before we go, I'm gonna actually there is a question here that I did see. I'll find it now. For one, he's right. Hasbro owes you money for plugging mix and mash.
hey, I'm getting ready to do another review. I've got Thanos and Hulk sitting over here. As soon as I get time, I'm gonna have another Mix Master video. I may tag Archer when I put that on there.
You definitely should. And he actually here's his question for you. Chris could
I
recast
saw
someone in
that.
the MCU. Who would it be?
I'm going to say somebody that I love as a character and also hate as a character, but going to my favorite character, the Punisher. I like John
Really?
Bernthal. I like the intensity he brings, but he just to me does not look like Punisher. I can see him more as Wolverine than I can see him as Punisher. You
Okay.
know who I think honestly the best cinematic Punisher looks wise was Dolph. He was
Really?
big. He was mean looking. He had the solid jet black. If you could take John Bernthal's intensity and the emotion he brings to that character and pump that into Dolph Lundgren, to me, that's the perfect Punisher. But again, I love the guy as the Punisher. I'll watch whatever he does, with that stuff. But I don't know. There's something about Bernthal that's not set perfect with me as the Punisher. I think it's got to do with just his overall look. To me, I get more Wolverine vibes from him than I do Frank Castle.
Interesting. Okay. um, Oops, that one. This is it right here. If you could take over a license, which would it be?
Well, I want to go with the figure that you and I have discussed before there, Archer. I would take over DC and I would make a damn good Superman. Why can't they do just one before he loses that license? I want one good Superman. I mean, all the ones he's given us ones that have promise. I like the Cavill Superman. Most of them do look decent. I want a good comic Superman. You got that new one out with the page punchers, but I'm looking at, and maybe I'm just nitpicking and I'm too damn picky with it, but I'm looking at the head sculpt. I just don't, to me, that's just not it. He just hasn't given us a strong Superman. So I would take over DC. I would probably make one that everybody would hate, but I would love, but I would have my definitive Superman.
See, that's been like my thing because I think you know this. I've been trying to collect the Silver Age DC multiverse because that to me is what I remember as superpowers. Superpowers was like a big deal in the 80s, and McFarlane has been doing well, I know he's doing superpowers, but like the 7-inch figures, he's gotten, I think for me, I have almost everybody, but I'm like you. I don't have a definitive Superman. I did pick up the Walmart exclusive that he just repainted metallic. And I was like, okay, this would be it because he's probably not going to make another one. And then he dropped that stupid digital one just not long ago. I think that one is probably the best Superman that they've made.
I agree. Just looking at it, I think it's still not what I would. The face needs a little more realistic features to it to me. But just seeing pictures of it, I do think that is probably going to be the best one. In my opinion, the best one he's done. The superpowers, that right there to me, that's a good looking old classic comic Superman. The last one he had come out of that. That's probably my favorite Superman from McFarlane right now is that one, which is why he's on the shelf up here. He's actually fist bumping Bizarro is why his hands out like that.
And then here it says, you don't think the Digital Superman is the best one? People are going crazy over that one.
I do think it will be, but it's just my personal taste. I might see it in person and be completely, have a different opinion. I'm just going by the pictures I've seen of it. I haven't actually found that figure yet, but looking at it color wise, body wise, stature wise, I mean, I agree with Yager. I think it's probably the best one, but I don't know. Something about the face just doesn't sit right with me, but I have been overly critical of McFarlane Superman figures. That's probably just my bias at this point in thinking that he can't do it, blocking me from really seeing what might be a good one.
No, I don't think that. I think there's been a lot of people that have been criticizing him for Superman, because I know, like I said, Batman is the number one seller. But as a kid in the 80s, Superman was everywhere. And that was like, I don't know. I think when I think of DC, I think of Superman. I never really thought of Batman. And then the Keaton movie came out. Batman was huge. And ever since then, I felt like Batman pretty much overtook Superman because there wasn't really any Superman movies until Man of Steel. You had the Dean Cain show, Lois and Clark. You had Smallville, but that was not Superman. Henry Cavill becomes Superman. Everyone hated him. You got the new kid. Everyone hates him. They haven't even seen anything. So
I liked Cavill. I gotta say, I was sad when I found out he wasn't going to be coming back. I mean, Man of Steel I liked, but I didn't expect Man of Steel to be dark. Right. Superman movies, I'm used to like Christopher Reeve, and even Superman Returns to an extent where he's like bigger than life and all that. I wasn't used to a brooding Superman, but he grew on me. But Batman, Michael Keaton made me, crazy about Batman because I'd only seen Batman 66 and Super Friends and Batman in kind of a corny, campy light. I hadn't read the comics at that point when 89 Batman come out. I didn't know he could be dark and calculating the way that he was. So yeah, Keaton, that's why he's my favorite all-time movie Batman. He really changed my opinion of that character. But yeah, I hope the new Superman's good. But just to go back to that, right now, that's one that if I have to have doubts about one and be negative, that's probably one I'm the most negative about right now is the new Superman movie. I'm not feeling the Gunverse so far. I was starting to get more acclimated to the way Zack Snyder was doing things, and now they've changed it. And it may come out and blow my mind. I don't know, but I'm more excited about the MCU right now than I am the Gunverse.
Yeah, I feel like I've been hearing that more and more now that the Superman trailers come out, and there's people that absolutely are excited. There's people that love the kid Corn Sweat. To me, he just looks like a carbon copy of Henry Cavill, but younger. Even when he has the beard, I'm like, that's Henry Cavill. Like, why didn't you just keep him at this point? Like,
And I
you've
tell you
got
what,
the younger
Doomsday, what
version.
worries me, I'm as excited like everybody else when they're going down those casting chairs and you're seeing all these stars and heroes, but it's like, are they going to have a bunch of movies to build up to kind of bring them along, or are they going to make one movie and throw all those characters in there to where you don't have enough time to give to those some of those X-Men characters and stuff to really build them up to where you don't really care about them or know anything about them. So I hope they do a slow like they did with the first, phase one stuff. You had 4 or 5 movies over years that built it up and not just throw them all in there together. But I know, yeah, Archer, Peacemaker, love. If you watch Peacemaker, you could never watch a good babyface John Cena in WWE again with a straight face after seeing what he did in Peacemaker. That was a beautiful
Exactly.
show. I cannot wait for season 2 of that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. And it's funny that that's the one thing about James Gunn that I do like is he's plucking obscure characters that literally nobody hears of, like Guardians of the Galaxy. I remember that book, I remember reading it, and I was like, they're gonna make a movie of them? Like what? Same thing with Peacemaker and when he did his Suicide Squad, just the most obscure characters. I mean, besides Harley Quinn, you obviously got to put her in it because she's big. And I'm trying to think, what was her name? I'm drawing a blank. She's just a good-looking woman, so why would you not have her in it? And the fact that like he was like, when he said, I'm writing the Superman movie, but I'm not going to direct it. Then he's like, I'm directing it, and I was like, oh, I wanted him to do something obscure, something different, pull a comic book character that you would never think of having a movie. Which, in a sense, against the Superman movie, he does pull out characters that really aren't that big, like Mr. Terrific, Metamorpho. Like people maybe have read about them in comic books, but having them in a movie, like I would have never expected that. The Green Lantern, Guy Gardner, would have never chose him to be in a movie.
Well, you think about that, and maybe Gunn's smarter what I give him credit for, because Guardians of the
Mhm.
Galaxy, I didn't think that would be a big movie, so I had no expectation of that being a blockbuster going in to watch it, and then it blows your mind. Peacemaker, I mean, I liked Peacemaker in the Suicide Squad, but if I was going to pick a character out of those movies to have a spin-off show, it would have been Harley or it would have been Deadshot. Is that who Idris Elba played? I think it was Deadshot.
Oh,
Anyways, his character.
Bloodshot, I think
And
Bloodshot or something
Bloodsport,
like that.
Bloodshot, something like that. But those would have been the characters I thought. He picked Peacemaker. It's like, well, I mean, it's John Cena. I guess that's why. But I guess
Yeah,
picking those obscure characters kind of helps keep the expectation down a little bit, where you can actually watch the movie and enjoy it, not going in with an expectation it's never going to be met.
true. I agree with that. um, well, I think that's it tonight. But I want to have you do a couple things for me. I need you to send me your X-Men #1.
Okay, I'll
No,
take a picture of it and I'll send it to you.
yeah, that's what I was like, oh, he'll just send me the picture. I'll just frame it and be like, yeah, I got X-Men #1 right here.
I'll take a picture of me
No,
holding it and I'll even autograph it for you.
perfect. That's exactly what I want to hear. No, so before we leave tonight, first off, I want to say thank you for doing this. I know it's late over there. I know you have to work just like I do. So thank you for being here. Thank you for doing this again. Um, like I said, this is a little bit different than what I've done in the past, but for people that are in the chat right now that are just now showing up, and if you've never heard of The Man Collects, go subscribe to his YouTube channel. So plug the rest of everything else that you have going on.
Well, number one, thank you for inviting me to be on, sir. It was always a pleasure to be on here and talk to you. I'm a little rusty with the live. I haven't been on a live stream since the last time we done Undisputed, so I was a little nervous coming
Oh,
into this tonight. But guys, make sure anybody watching this subscribe to this guy as well. I want to speak to the chat. Usually when I'm in live streams, I try to stay in the chat because I actually signed in on my phone here so I can try to talk. So I want to nerd affiliated, Jaeger, Roughshod, Virgo Cool. I saw Master of Turtles, saw a bunch of people. Thank you guys for showing up here tonight. But as far as me, you can find me on Instagram, The Man Collects. Just search on there, you'll find me there. There in YouTube, that's the only social media presence that I got. As far as the channel, still going to be toy hunts coming. still going to try to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I've been trying to do some more reviews and more trading card stuff and stuff like that for some extra videos. But if you subscribe, turn on your bell for notifications, and you'll know when I drop all these other. Like I told Marcher, I'm trying to be a media whore here and get a lot of stuff out there. So. Like I said, it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'll have a video on there at 12 p.m. And then any other thing that I do, I throw out at random times. Most of the time, anything that's outside of a toy hunt, I put it at 8 p.m. I don't know why, just the time that popped in my head. But all that stuff, you'll find me there. But yeah, like I said, I appreciate you having me here. I'm getting a little sleepy and rambling, so I'm going to shut up and let you say your piece now.
Oh no, that's pretty much it. So everyone that's new to the chat, if you guys haven't subscribed to The Man Collects, go do that on YouTube tonight. Also follow him on Instagram. Great dude. One of my best friends in the toy community, even though we've never met. I don't know how weird that is. Probably not, because we're adults and we have a similar, I guess, sense of humor. We have we have a great sense of humor, and can't wait to one day toy hunt with you. Even if I have to fly out there, I will do that. I don't mind flying, even though I hate it too. But I can't wait for you to come out here. I can't wait for you to get that. Not gloating here. Press badge for Comic-Con.
I will do Comic-Con one of these days. Like I said, we will be at Comic before we all get too old. We can't walk around. If anything, we'll get somebody to push us around in wheelchairs. We will be at Comic-Con together one of these days, my friend.
Will. And I will be at Toylanta. That was my plan this year, was to go, but I did not know it was the same weekend WonderCon, and I was like, well, that sucks. But that's okay. I had a good time. I know you had a good time. It was fun, and hopefully you get your Street Fighter figure. I don't know if you've gotten it yet.
It's showing to be delivered tomorrow.
Perfect. I know Art is having issues with USPS. I don't know if he's gotten it yet, but I'm always willing to help out my buddies. So again, thank you for being here. I appreciate you, and I'm sure we'll talk tomorrow. Yeah, that's it for the night. And tomorrow, if you guys want to come back tomorrow, we're going to have Art G on tomorrow. And then on Thursday, I'm going to have Mike from AZ Toy Hunters Guild. And then Friday, going to have the day off. And hopefully next week, you'll see a whole new lineup. I'm going to try to do this every week. Don't know how the possibility of that happening, but we'll see. But again, thank you for being here. Thanks you guys for showing up in the chat. Appreciate you guys. If you guys came late, you can rewatch this anytime. So please do. And we'll see you guys tomorrow with Art G. Until then, peace.
Bye.